Hey, I'd like to start off by giving a warm welcome to everyone who's tuning in to One Earth Live. I'm here with Holley Sommerville, who is a public speaker, an environmental activist, founder of her own social enterprise. And yeah, I'd like to give you a warm welcome to the One Earth Live stream. And yeah, it's a pleasure to have you.
Thanks, it's great to be here.
Yeah, so I've been kind of given the opportunity to open up the conversation a little bit with some of my peers and colleagues about, what this situation means for humanity and what we've been experiencing through it collectively and individually. And so, part of my interest is what's some of the things you've been focusing your energy on for the past few months as this situation has transpired?
Well, I guess the upside to everything that's going on is I have so much more time now to get a lot of things done. So I've been mostly focusing on my business, and I'm kind of reworking the business model right now. And I've also had a lot of time to spend with my family. So my business is called Tell Someone Who Cares. And right now I'm in the process of kind of bringing out a new product line, which is part of the new model. So the new product line is going to consist of a range of shampoo bars, which is super exciting. And how it works is there's going to be 5 different bars, and each one is going to be aligned with a different charity partner. So basically, when you make a purchase, a percentage of those profits will go towards that charity. So every single time you make a purchase, it's going to support a cause. For example, one of the bars is called Mint Condition, and a percentage of the profits from that will go towards rainforest regeneration projects. Or profits from the Be Happy bar will go towards a charity that supports children with disabilities. So by choosing a bar, basically people are choosing a cause. My business really has always been, I guess, focused on giving customers the opportunity to create change with their everyday purchases. Because I figure if people are going to buy shampoo products, then they might as well buy ones that do some good in the world. I've always been really interested in business for good as a way of using consumer purchases to drive social impact. And I'm really kind of, I guess, aiming to do business in a way that fits within our planet's boundaries and creates positive change. And I'm really, really excited about the shampoo bars specifically because they're a really innovative and sustainable product. As in a single shampoo bar, there's about 3 bottles worth of shampoo, which is way more cost effective for people. They obviously last way longer, but it also means that each bar saves about 2 to 3 plastic bottles from going into landfill, which is really awesome. And as usual, as regular shampoo is made of about 80% water, and conditioner can be up to like 95%, which is a total waste because you get water in the shower anyway. So by choosing a bar, you're saving a lot of water too. And my bars are made from 100% natural ingredients. So it's not basically just like, and they're real shampoo ingredients. So it's not just like a soap for your hair. Pretty much they use like functional botanicals that really cleanse your hair just like a regular shampoo would. And they're totally all natural, cruelty-free, palm oil free, and vegan. So I'm really excited about launching that within the next few months.
Wow, that sounds fantastic. So you've been focusing on that, and can you tell me a little bit about how you started your social enterprise? Like, when did you start it, and for what reason?
So I started it when I was about 12 years old because I went to a premiere for a movie documentary called Rise of the Eco Warriors. And that was totally focused on the palm oil destruction, basically in the Borneo rainforest. And that was I'd been a passionate environmentalist for a few years before that, but that issue was something I'd never heard of. So I was really shocked and horrified at that. But it also motivated me to, I guess, want to do something about it. And after finding out that palm oil is the most widely produced oil in the world and that it's used in basically over half of the items on supermarket shelves, I wanted to create my own business that's driven by a range of my own palm oil free products. So it started out as that. But since then, I thought it was time to expand the amount of impact I was having in the world and focus on a lot of other issues too, which is why the products are still totally palm oil free. But now we're kind of bringing in those other causes by partnering with different charities as well to create even more impact.
That's incredible. And so how old are you now, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm almost 17.
Wow, that's incredible. You've been such a powerhouse. I've had the pleasure of, getting to know you throughout the years and seeing your growth a little bit. And it's incredible to see how consistently you are innovating the ways that you show up for the world and the community. So yeah, really wanted to honor that in you as a fantastic young woman that you're growing into. Yeah, I guess another thing during this time, while everyone's facing this intense crisis that's occurring around the world, I feel like there's a lot of struggles that people have with mental health and with their well-being physically and otherwise. And I think a lot of people are finding it really challenging to stay hopeful about the future. And so, I'd love to hear some of the things that you have been seeing that have been giving you hope for the future moving forward.
Mm-hmm. I think that I think what we've seen is that as systems collapse, people rise, and people rise to the occasion in absolutely remarkable ways. We've seen hundreds of thousands of volunteers showing up to help their neighbors, people trying to find ways to deliver food and medicine to people, starting services to help each other. And I've seen a lot of things change that would usually use the Earth's resources, which is really hopeful to me. Like, for example, a lot of companies have had to kind of pivot and change the way they do things. Like, for example, obviously people have had to reduce the amount that they travel a lot. And for a lot of people, it seems like nothing to just kind of fly in and out all over the place for numerous business meetings. But now we've had to be a lot more resourceful and use online platforms like Zoom to connect and do business. Which I think is really cool. And I think that obviously as supermarkets have completely run out of a lot of produce, people have had to start their own gardens, grow their own food, buy more local produce. And as travel is limited, as people are locked at home, as factories are shut and economic growth has slowed, we've seen a huge drop in carbon emissions. And also a huge reduction in pollution, like how air quality has improved so much over Europe and China. And basically the Earth has been given a chance to breathe. And that's another upside to this crisis. I think that after years of overconsumption and destructive practices, now that we're in lockdown, the Earth's finally getting a break and so many ecosystems are coming back to life. This has really forced people to, I guess, in a sense, take a step back and look at our supply chains and consider how things are being made, what we're doing to the Earth to produce them, and how we can be more innovative and change consumer habits, which has totally been happening. And also, although this has been a time of separation and isolation for us, I've seen people come up with so many ingenious ways to connect with one another. Like, probably you've seen it, but there was some videos going around a while ago of people in Italy that were going out onto their balconies and playing music with each other across the street. There's initiatives like Couch Choir, which is like an online platform, which is really cool, where people can join and it allows hundreds of voices to sing together. So basically, I think that in this time, people are being really resourceful and creative and finding resilience in places they never thought they could. And I've seen a lot of examples of that over the past few months, and that's definitely given me hope.
Yeah, you mentioned resiliency, and I think that that's such a critical piece of this and something that's come up in a few of the conversations that I've been having. And yeah, tapping into that resiliency that we have within ourselves to create and to, solve the challenges that we're faced with. Something like, for an example, this festival, One Earth Live is an example of that, right? We're unable to gather in physical space. So having to innovate the way that we can share content and connect and collaborate on things. And so, yeah, I appreciate you being a part of this experiment as well.
Clearly, exactly what I'm talking about. I think it's really awesome.
For sure. Yeah. And so what do you think we can do collectively? I think it's clear that the way we were living previously was so damaging to the planet. And you spoke to this eloquently in saying, us all being inside for some time has given the Earth a chance to breathe again. How do you think we can return to a life outside of isolation and outside of lockdowns, where we are living in a more harmonious way, where we're more aligned with our natural systems? What are some thoughts you have around that?
Well, yeah, as I said before, the Earth is finally getting a break, but this is temporary. So in the past, when we've seen kind of like sharp reductions in emissions, like after recessions, for example, there's usually like a rocketing rebound period straight after that that basically wipes out any like short-term progress that was made. So my thoughts on this is that it's an opportunity for the possibility of building a sustainable economy based on actual long-term positive change for the environment, but only if we act wisely. So, I mean, I guess the most important thing for us to realize coming out of this crisis is that our individual actions have societal consequences. And now more than ever, that's been made really visible. Because even though this virus isn't directly related to sustainability, it's brought attention and definitely new emphasis to it. I think that the time consumers have spent at home has caused a radical reset to their priorities, which has been reflected, which will be reflected in their lifestyles moving forward. And I think that this virus, I guess, in a way, holds up a mirror that forces us to look at our own behavior and its impact on the collective, on the system. And that mirror invites us to make a few personal sacrifices that will benefit the whole, and to shift out in a, I guess, like our inner mind space from a place of ego to eco. So the coronavirus situation provides an opportunity for all of us to pause, to reset, and to step up. And I think that COVID-19, like any disruption, really confronts all of us with a choice to either turn away from others or to turn towards them and support each other. And the choice to act from awareness is one that we have every single day. The further we sink into chaos, desperation, and despair, it's the greater responsibility we have, I think, to radiate confidence, grounded action, compassion, and presence. And I think we're going to need to surrender to the evolution that is emerging, I guess, and reimagine our civilization. Because each disruption really has two sides. There's the things that things that we're letting go of, and the things that are about to emerge. So on the letting go side of things, it's interesting to see how quickly we can adjust as a global community. But I guess practically speaking, countries will have to rethink their productive capacity for sustainability and to meet the greater manufacturing demands of what's going to be a totally unpredictable future. So focusing on what we as a family and what we as a community can do to sustain ourselves without the reliance on multinational corporations is going to be really important. And as we've seen that governments have been, I guess, administering all kinds of economic stimulus packages, support packages for people, businesses, economies, we really need to make sure that these are paving the way to a sustainable future instead of, I guess, locking us further into a unsustainable economy. Because I've read a lot about how like times of high unemployment and lower interest rates are the right time to be implementing low carbon investments and infrastructure, and that includes the kind required to help us with the transition to renewable energy. And I guess I hope that answers your question, but I guess this is kind of going off topic a little bit. I wanted to, I guess, talk about how this crisis has highlighted inequality, and kind of, as well as a lot of the problems we have with the degradation of ecosystems. Because in developed countries, frontline workers in the service economy are the ones who are going to be the most susceptible and vulnerable to the virus, and also the least able to absorb the financial impacts. And I think the hardest hit are going to be the poor in developing countries that don't have the benefits of like social safety nets or stimulus packages. So I think that the G7 needs to immediately help these countries to finance the flattening of the pandemic curve, I guess you could say. And longer term, I guess my point is longer term, I think we're going to have to focus on creating sustainable economic systems in the humanitarian aspect, as well as in the ecological aspect, with things like fair trade and investment. So yeah, those are some of my thoughts around that question.
Wow, that's a lot to digest. I'm amazed at how thorough your consideration of that is. I think there's a few really critical things you mentioned. one of which is the way that this has mirrored our responsibility to one another to take care of our community, really. Like, we each have collectively, individually and collectively, a responsibility to make sure that we aren't adversely affecting the people around us. And I feel like carrying that forward is going to be super crucial.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. One thing that I'm curious about, you also mentioned this, I feel like what you're describing takes and requires a degree of fortitude of self, like a willingness to participate and a willingness to step up and level up. You said we have this option to either, go back to the way we were, or to bring in the new normal, or a new paradigm. And so, what are some of the things that you've been doing within your life to keep your spirits lifted and to keep yourself hopeful? Do you have some practices you're participating in, or is finding that in creativity, or what are some ways you've been coping with the situation that we're in?
Ways I've been coping. I guess I've definitely been trying really hard to stay in contact with my friends and to talk to them a lot, for us to be able to support each other. There's a lot of, I think it's interesting because there's a lot of introverts and extroverts in my group, specifically my friend group. And so it's about kind of like finding that middle ground of like, giving people enough alone time, but also not letting them also not, I guess, letting them completely kind of disappear at this time. And then also for extroverts, like being able to keep in contact with them and keep supporting them and give them the social interaction they need, while also like, yeah, just like finding that middle ground, I guess, which has been really cool. I've seen a lot of people talking about like practices just to kind of keep up like our mental health and everything. Like, I've been trying to go on walks, I guess, do some like self-care rituals, and I guess I've been trying and kind of failing at this, but I've been trying to kind of get up and actually get dressed and not stay in my pajamas all day, and kind of save that for a weekend thing, even though I have the opportunity to just do it whenever I want. And I have been a little bit, but I mean, like, trying to make progress on that. And I've been trying really hard to focus on, I guess, like I said, the things that give me hope, the things that I've seen, the amazing initiatives I've seen other people create, ways to connect with each other, and ways to give others hope in this time. Because I think it's really important that we kind of focus more on those at a time that's very painful for a lot of people, where it's easy to sink into despair. So yeah, I'm trying to support people I know and kind of trying to focus on the things to keep my spirits lifted. And yeah.
For sure. Yeah, that's amazing. I've been, navigating the whole situation as well. And I feel like, staying social in any way possible is definitely something that's been helpful. It sounds to me like you get a lot from showing up for people around you, which is really lovely. And, being able to participate and show up for other people. And that's something I've experienced as well, as far as being something that lifts my spirits and definitely keeps me in a positive mind state.
Totally. And you also said like creative outlets and expressions, and I guess for me, like, that's totally business, because that's been like my passion for a really long time. I think it's really important that people kind of focus on their passions and what they're interested in, to stay happy. And also, it's a really great time to hone skills because there's so much time. So yeah, that's why I think that's important.
Yeah, fantastic. Seeing a lot of amazing, projects and creativity and expression coming out of this time. And for you, hearing about the work you've been doing with your business, it definitely reflects that kind of, the things that can come out of us of a pause like this if you are diligent. And so commend you for that as well. Moving forward, humanity is facing this huge, situation as we step back into, life beyond COVID. And I think there's so many ways that could pan out. But hearing what you've described as far as the things you want to see as we move forward, what are the things you hope to see in the future for humanity? How does what story do you want us to write for ourselves so that we can live in a more aligned, sustainable, and thriving planet for us all?
I guess what I've been most hoping to see is kind of more around mindset shifts, which I think are really fundamental. So I hope to see kind of a shift in people realizing how fragile our systems are and how easily things can change if Mother Earth decides that they should. Unexpected things that we'd never expected to see happen have already been happening. And I hope to see people realizing the importance of resilience, like we were talking about before. Because resilience, I guess, the ability for human systems to be able to adapt is super important. I think this crisis has shown the importance of resilience, and resilience is also crucial in how the world responds to climate change, where further temperature rises are guaranteed. So unfortunately, those who benefit from the shattered status quo are usually more interested in preserving and reestablishing it rather than protecting human life. But it's really crucial that our communities, institutions, and governments succeed in planning for a low-carbon future and stop contributing to climate change or risk jeopardizing our future and causing irreversible damage. I think that both the climate crisis and the COVID-19 outbreak have both become global emergencies. And it's interesting because the word emergency comes from the word emergence or emerge, as if you were suddenly uprooted from everything that's familiar and urgently need to adapt as the world is changing around us. I think as our focus shifts, what matters shifts. And in amidst all this change, what was hidden emerges, what was weak breaks under new pressure, and what was strong holds. We ourselves change as our priorities shift. And I think that change is the single most important thing after this lockdown is over. One of the things most dangerous to us as a species is believing that everything was normal before this outbreak, and our top priority should be returning to normal. Because our normal before the pandemic struck was really a catastrophe of desperation, exclusion, and inequality for too many people, not to mention the degradation of ecosystems that's going on. So change is what I hope to see the most, awareness-based collective action. And I think I've seen a lot of business owners and CEOs have been forced into changing kind of like finding a balance between managing employees, working from home, and also productivity. And it's interesting how all chief executive officers have also had to take on the role of chief ethics officers and focus on making ethical decisions on behalf of the business as well as strategic ones in this time, and continuing to create that culture of transparency, inclusiveness, compassion, everything like that. And I guess what I hope to see after all this is tangible and profound changes to our economic, democratic, and our learning systems in ways that bridge the ecological, social, and spiritual divides of our time.
Wow, that is a profound vision for the future. I feel like, what I'm hearing is that there's so many challenges that we're overcoming or facing at this time that are modeling the kinds of challenges we need to continue to face moving forward regarding taking care of ourselves, taking care of our communities, making ethical decisions within our businesses, innovating our supply chains. There's all these rapid shifts that are occurring that are modeling the kinds of shifts that we need to continue to make to move towards a viable future. And so, yeah, I really appreciate that perspective as far as, seeing this as a beginning of this process of transformation for us, and hoping that we can cultivate and continue it as we move forward. Yeah, I think returning to the way we were just isn't a viable option at this point for a livable future. And so, I really appreciate that perspective.
Thank you. Yeah, absolutely. This is totally, doesn't have to be, I guess, like viewed as a solely negative, experience. It totally is a transformation. It could be the catalyst to the change we need to see in the world. And it's from, I forget the exact quote, but I remember hearing a quote a while ago that totally applies to this. And it was something along the lines of, often before the change that is needed, disaster strikes. So that is kind of what pushes us into the change that's needed. So I guess that's along the lines of what I was trying to say.
Absolutely. Yeah, and you see that reflected in the hero's journey that shows up so frequently throughout our mythology that we've created collectively throughout history. That right before the moment of breakthrough, there's a breakdown that occurs. And you know, uh, I know some people have been saying that corona, the word comes from the word crown, and it's like the crowning of a new baby as it's being born. You know, that
Mm.
this moment, it has that metaphorical and significance. And yeah, I think that it feels to me like this is one of the most critical times in my lifetime and one of the most pivotal times in history in my lifetime. And so I appreciate you exploring some of your thoughts and your you know the perspectives that you hold on different things. And it's been a pleasure to speak with you. uh,
Yeah, thanks so much for giving me the chance to do that.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure. I'd like to thank everyone who's tuning in, and just let you know there's a bunch of other amazing content out here on the platform. Go tune into the live stream. It's the amazing artists and different people sharing things that are coming up for them at this time. And so, yeah, stay healthy, stay happy. Um, Appreciate you all. And yeah.